All right. Hello, everyone. This is Delta Penguin again from Pentech. And let's see. Last time we talked about variables and how they're basically just digital containers that can hold some data. Digital containers that hold some digital data, which you create so that you can store results and then give it to the program so that it can process or do something with it. Typically, the variables can just hold one piece of data at a time. We'll say the standard variables can one piece of data at a time. But so let's go back to our example for a sec. Oops, hey, wrong button. Example. So where would it go? Okay, so we had this. And we can change the numbers a bit here. Let's say 3, 2. So the result we expect equal to, actually here, we'll make it interesting. So when I say var num1, we'll just say that's, we'll say that's the var1 in my physical example. Okay, so what if I change the code to something like this? What does this mean? What does it mean? Well, I'll tell you what it means. Okay, so instead of the other numbers, now it's basically saying, okay, I want to create 2 containers, right? So this is like when you're first creating it. And it can be different in different programming languages. The keyword might be a little bit different, but this is kind of like JavaScript. So first of all, you create one container. So let is where you're creating it. Let a var num1 container be equal to 3, or put the value of 3 into it. And then let a container named var num2, put the number 2 in it. The result, we'll keep it, actually we'll ignore the result. The result doesn't exist at the moment. Poof, and it's gone. Okay, so what it's doing here, so 3 plus 2, now it's saying, what's happened here? This says whatever value is in var num1, whatever's in that container, whatever's in that variable, I want you to add it to whatever's in this container, right? Var num2. So that result will become equal to 5. And then what it's going to do is, after it calculates this result, is going to put it back into var num1. Okay. So, okay, and as part of code, you can do something like, in this case, // just means comments for JavaScript. So we're going to say this should equal 5. Okay. And then we're going to reassign var num2 to be equal to 4. And then so this should becomes equal to 5 plus 4, right? Because var num1 changed to the results from these two, 3 plus 2, equal to 5. It sticks it in here. We change the value that's in var num2, because again, everything can hold one piece. All these variables here can hold one piece of data, right? So then it becomes, it becomes 5 plus 4. So the end result is that should be equal to 9. Var num1 is equal to 9, where var num4 or var num2 is equal to 4, right? All right, if you need to, feel free to pause it and sort of think through that. As a physical example, let me show you. All right, let me move this around a little bit so I can see both items. Okay, so I don't mess up my example. Okay. All right, so going back to our example, okay, this is the digital world. There's something that's happening, but here's the digital world now. Okay, you're starting out by let var num1. You're creating, so poop, a container is created, a digital container, nothing in it. We're going to put the new value of 3 into it. That's how we're starting. So var1 now holds 3. You can It's kind of dark right now. Sorry. Yeah. Holds 3. All right. Var num2 has nothing in it. We're putting the value of 2 into it. So we slot this into 2. Cool. All right. So now you give it to the computer and you say, hey, do this calculation. Var num1 plus var num2. Let's add those together. And then computer, we want you to process it, right? So the computer is like, okay, I'm going to take the, you want me to add these two together? I'm going to go do that. So it takes the data, it reads the data. So the data is still there, but it takes a copy of it and reads it and goes, all right, let me see. Let me calculate it. Poof, the answer is 5. And then the code says, okay, I want you to put that into var num1. So it says, okay, var num1, you have this value. We're going to kick it out. And we're going to put the new value of 5 into it instead. All right, cool. So then after that, we have a code line that says var num2. I'll transition over real quick. I should probably have both of them together, but it's a work in progress. All right, so this just happened, this line. All right, so var num4 now, okay, we're going to reassign whatever the value used to be 2, we're going to reassign it with 4, and then we're going to add it again and put it in var num1. All right. All right, so var num1 has this, var num2 has this. We're going to kick this value out and give it a 4 instead. So digitally, this is what's happening. It's a little bit confusing, but you kind of keep try. Well, you get the hang of it as you go. And then afterwards, you give it back to the computer and be like, okay, I have these new values here, and I want you to add them again. So it says, okay, take a look at the values. And then the result is 9 based on your values. And then you say, okay, cool. I want you to replace var1. It's like, okay, dump that data. And what you end up with is like so. So that's what's going on digitally behind the scenes. So that's just standard arrays, right? But let's say, going back to the code, that's fine and all for 2 variables. But what if you had a case where, you had like 5 variables or like 100 variables and they're all numbers? You know, what are you going to do? Are you going to like, okay, whoops. Are you going to do something like this? Like, okay, well, you could do it. Var num, so now you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you know, ... however many you want. But that becomes, you know, kind of inefficient and tedious. It's like, well, it'd be nice if our variable containers could hold more than just one piece of data, right? Aha! Some can. If you use like an array, then you can actually hold multiple items of the same data type. So as an example, instead of something like this, we can convert it to, let's say a variable number array. And then usually, well, arrays usually need these square brackets, variable number array. And we'll assign it some values. Let's say 0, 1. Actually, let me think. I'm going to assign it a values 9, 8. Okay. 9, 8, 3, 5, 4. So what does that mean? Let's see. I can replace it here too. So 9, 8, 3, 5, 4. So these two are essentially the same-ish. So instead of having 5 separate variables that contain number data, 9, 8, 3, 5, and 4, you're creating one variable that's an array of numbers that can hold 5 items, and here they are. Okay. And one thing to note about arrays is that they're zero-based index. And what that means is when you're trying to refer to these values it starts at 0. So this is the first number, but the index is 0. The second number, third, fourth, fifth, but indexes are 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So the total index number is, the total item is minus 1. And there's a reason for that. Technically, when you're using an array behind the scenes, it gives it a reference to where the data is located. And so it's a reference of, okay, 0 is the position, and then index 1 is a relative position from that first one. So that's kind of behind the scenes why that's happening, but you don't really need to know that all that much right now. At the moment, it's just realize, okay, if you want to reference it, it's by index, and then it starts with a 0. So what this means is if you wanted to reference, like if you're trying to reference var num1, like in this case here, instead of, I'll make a copy. So instead of var num1, what you would do is you want the first item in this array, right? What that means is you would do something like, okay, let's say you need the name of the array, so var num1 array, the name of the array variable, and then inside is the index, so 0. This is the same thing in our case as var num1, like this one holds a 9, and then the first position here also holds a 9. So like if you replace this with this, it would be the same. All right, so let's see. Going back to the real world. All right, real world. Let's pretend this is the digital world. The real world, pretending we're digital. So these were variables, right? Or just digital containers that can hold some kind of data. But as a note, it doesn't just have to be a number. It could also be like a string, like, give me a sec. It could be like, hi mom. It could be a string of data, so some text data. So instead of number, you could stick that in. So later on, you could refer to it. It's like, hey, what's the special message? A special message is in var1. Okay, so you give it to the computer. It's like, okay. And then it could be like, oh, okay, hi mom. And then it can print it out to the screen or say something or use it in some fashion. Okay, so that's an example of different kinds of data. There's string, numbers. There's like decimal numbers. There's characters, which is a single letter. There's a Boolean, which is true or false data. Just one of those two values. But yeah, that was a little bit of a rabbit trail. But yeah, but instead of just a variable that contains one item, what we want is an array. So instead of having to create, 5 or 100 of these boxes, we create one item. And here's an example of it. This is this just because I have this. So let's see. So basically, I forgot how to do this. It's basically something like this. Okay, the name of the array is var num array, and it has, you can do it, buddy. You can do it. Okay, it has 5 different numbers attached to it. So one container, but 5 items. At the first item being the 0 index. See the 0, the first index, second index, third, and fourth. So that way, if I want, again, to access any of these numbers, I have to say, okay, what container holds the data I want? Well, it's var num array. Okay, but there's 5 of them, so which one do you want? Then you can say, oh, I want index 3. Okay, here, the number is 5. Or I want index 1. Okay, here you go. The number is 8. So digitally, that's kind of what's happening behind the scenes when you have an array of a type of object or a type of item. All right, I think that's good for this video.